Hello and welcome to part 5 of the World Holiday Spectacular aboard the Regent 7 Seas Voyager. In this segment, we're going to visit São Tomé in the tiny island nation of São Tomé and Príncipe off the coast of Africa, and then we're going to enjoy 3 more sea days en route to Namibia, where we once more make landfall in Walvis Bay. São Tomé would be a day at anchor, and we were to tender into the dock. It was a pleasant and beautiful sail into the harbor, where we anchored on time and prepared to tender into port. It was an early excursion, and we were sitting in the theater, waiting for our tender call at 7:15 in the morning. Well, that call never came until over an hour later. It seems that although our captain had brought the ship in on time, the local authorities were delayed in boarding and clearing the passengers for disembarkation. We were further delayed when the first tender had to transport a new medical emergency to the shore. And then, when we finally boarded our tender, we were also transporting another couple that had to leave the cruise for medical reasons. When we arrived at the dock, we were greeted by a somewhat dangerous situation: slick, uneven rock stairs with no guardrails. And debarking amid the tender's constant rolling motion from the swells made it difficult even for the more nimble of us, even with the several crew members stationed there to help us up the stairs. But we all made it safe and sound, even the gentleman that the crew had to carry up the stairs in his wheelchair to a waiting ambulance. Our included excursion today was São Tomé highlights, and it was little more than a drive around the city, a stop at the National Museum, a stop at the cathedral, a visit to Independence Square, and a short excursion out to a local fishing village, and then a stop at a chocolate shop. Along the way, our guide made sure that we understood everything about the island and its people by repeating everything 3 times. By repeating everything 3 times, yes, I said repeating everything 3 times. First stop was the National Museum, and it was interesting. It was at the museum that we learned of the colonial history of the island. The island was previously a colony of Portugal. The major industry of the island has traditionally been the production of cocoa beans, and as a result, the island was populated by Portugal with slaves from Africa to work the plantations. First in the museum, which is an old fortress, we were able to see how the military colonial governors of the island lived. But things soon turned much darker. As we learned, in 1953, the Portuguese military on the island engaged in a massacre of the laborers that were brought to the island. Some estimate the deaths at around 10,000. From this horrible event, a resistance to the Portuguese rule was born, and in 1974, the Portuguese agreed to free the island from Portuguese rule. And in 1975, the documents were signed at this very desk that allowed the people of São Tomé and Príncipe to be free to follow their own path. The outside of the fortress was interesting as well, and displayed broken bits of the past, and as fortresses do, a clear view out to the ocean. Also on view was a bit more tranquil display of life in the islands now. We did a quick drive-by of the now presidential palace, the former Portuguese governor's residence. And right across the street, we were led to Our Lady of Grace Cathedral. Construction of the first church of Our Lady of Grace was started at the end of the 15th century. The church was situated near the present cathedral. It became the seat of a diocese in 1534, and the building was reconstructed between 1576 and 1578. It fell into disrepair, and in 1814 it was rebuilt by the local population and remodeled in 1956. Leaving the cathedral, we walked across the street to Independence Square and witnessed a performance of what was supposed to represent the battle between good and evil. Boarding our bus and leaving Independence Square, we were on the road again, headed towards a small fishing village and another performance by locals. For those that wished to try it, we were offered a taste of smoked fish. Our last stop of the day would be at a local chocolate shop. One of the principal industries of São Tomé and Príncipe is the growing of cocoa and coffee beans. Here we had the opportunity to try a bit of chocolate and purchase a few bars if wanted. We were dropped off at our tender, and it was time to head back to the Seven Seas Voyager. As our day ended and the tenders were put away, we were witness to a beautiful sail away and sunset. Changing for dinner, it was time once more for, well, Italian. For more on Settimari, please check out our already published Dining and Drink Guide. After a delicious meal at Settimari, it was time for a bit of entertainment, and tonight it was Rocking Soul. Regent strictly prohibits the recording of any of their shows, but it was a fine performance by the house production team. The next 3 days after our departure of São Tomé were sea days en route to Walvis Bay, Namibia. On most sea days, the gastronomy team will put together a specialty buffet, usually at the pool grill or La Veranda. And today was no exception. We had an Indian buffet at the pool grill. Later that afternoon on the pool deck, we had a ceremony celebrating the first-time crossing of the equator. The ceremony is called Anointing the Polywogs, or those who are a first-time equator crosser. Following the ceremony and receiving King Neptune's blessing, a polywog becomes a shellback. As you can see, a fun but messy time was had by all, except possibly some of the polywogs. After some carousing about and more entertainment, it was time to get ready for our next day at sea. Our next day at sea featured a beautiful sunrise and calm seas. The day also brought something I was unfamiliar with on Regent, and that was the country fair. The band joined us on deck with many of the crew and several departments featuring their own version of a fair game. The bar team had a ring toss around liquor bottles. The deck department had an agility test. Housekeeping had a race to see who could stuff a pillowcase with a pillow the quickest. the entertainment team had a human ring toss in the pool. Another version of the ring toss was featured by the bridge officers. And the restaurant team had some sort of version of an old drinking game I used to participate in called beer pong. And I'm not sure which department this was, but it was a camel race. After collecting all your tickets for participation, Olivia of the entertainment team held a raffle/drawing for Regent labeled swag. And then it was time for lunch with another theme, the Asian buffet, this time held inside at La Veranda. Frittering away the afternoon, it was time for dinner once more, and again at the Compass Rose. For more on the Compass Rose and all of the dining venues aboard the Seven Seas Voyager, check out our dining and drink guide already published. Joining us for dinner tonight were new friends Meow and Yan. Now we had all vowed to eat somewhat more healthy today and not stuff ourselves and eschew desserts for the evening. But when I spotted on the menu the Grand Marnier Soufflé, that plan went out the window, and every one of us at the table ordered the Grand Marnier Soufflé. Our third day at sea brought high seas, and as usual, beginning with a 3-mile walk in the exercise center, we followed up with a light breakfast that included a side of 2 Dramamine. After wasting away the afternoon with a lecture or two, it was time to change for dinner, and dinner once more would be at Settimari. For more on Settimari and all of the other dining venues, check out our dining and drink guide already published. After a bit more carousing around, it was time for bed and get ready for our next day, where we would make landfall in Walvis Bay in Namibia. Well, thank you for watching and your patience in waiting for this one. Please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell to be kept up to date with new videos as they appear. Check out my somewhat neglected tomsmultiinterest.com website and stay tuned for more of the World Holiday Spectacular. Part 6 is in the works right now, where we stop in Walvis Bay, Namibia, take one more day at sea before ending our cruise in Cape Town, South Africa. If you enjoy this content, please check out some more. And as always, safe and happy travels from T's Cruise and Travel Muse.